Dear finance professionals and students, welcome to podcast of FCA Deepak Rao, a practicing chartered accountant. Weekly digest for week 3 of November 2024. Air India has officially merged with Vistara, aiming to establish a world-class airline. The merger, completed in just 2 years, will see Air India adopting Vistara's operational practices and standards to enhance customer experience and achieve operational and financial robustness. Indian banks are intensifying their efforts to attract deposits from non-resident Indians, particularly in Kerala, a hub for NRI remittances. Banks are expanding their operations in the Gulf countries and offering specialized products and services to cater to the growing NRI customer base. Foreign portfolio investors or FPIs continued selling off Indian equities in the second week of November, although at a slower pace than the previous week and month. Despite this trend, FPIs increased their investments in the Indian primary market. Meanwhile, domestic funds continued pouring money into the equity market. India is poised to become the second largest recipient of global investments after the US during President Trump's second term. Investors are drawn to India's potential as a market, its alignment with Trump's policies, and its strong economic growth prospects, particularly in sectors like energy, infrastructure, and consumer goods. India's two big conglomerates, Tata and Adani, are looking to extend their competition from power distribution to offering cooling solutions now. The energy arms of the duo, Adani Energy Solutions and Tata Power, are offering cooling as a service and will bear the capital expenditure upfront. Cooling solutions involve setting up a single large-scale central unit that uses chilled water to meet the cooling needs of multiple establishments. The GSTN has issued an update to inform that the supplier view of IMS has also been made available, where the action taken by their recipients on their records or invoices reported in GSTR 1 or 1A or 1FF will be visible to the suppliers in supplier view functionality. This will help a supplier taxpayer to see the action taken on their reported outward supplies and will help to avoid any wrong action taken by the recipient taxpayer. India's electronics manufacturing industry is booming, projected to add 12 million jobs by 2028. However, a significant skills gap threatens this growth with a projected shortage of 8 million workers and 10 million lacking necessary skills. This gap is attributed to a mismatch between education and industry needs, particularly in specialized technical fields. Of the last 10 IPOs, 8 saw limited to little participation from high net worth individuals or HNIs, while the HNI proportions were unsubscribed for Swiggy, Hyundai India, Niva Bupa Health and Godavari Biorefineries. Another 4 barely managed single-digit subscriptions. This is a stark contrast to an average of 116 times HNI subscriptions in the preceding 10 IPOs. Negotiations between Mahindra & Mahindra and Skoda Auto Volkswagen India for a 50-50 joint venture have stalled due to disagreements on key issues. The companies had previously signed non-binding MOUs but are now unable to finalize crucial agreements. Mahindra & Mahindra, which had strengthened its position in the Indian market, may be reluctant to proceed if it must compromise on development costs and sourcing. Apple has significantly increased its investment proposal to Indonesia from nearly $10 million to almost $100 million over 2 years in an attempt to overturn a sales ban on the iPhone 16. The Indonesian government, however, is requesting that Apple shift its investment focus towards research and development for smartphones within the country. The recent amendment to the definition of unpublished price sensitive information or UPSI by the Securities and Exchange Board of India aims to clarify and expand the events covered under the SEBI Prohibition of Insider Trading Regulations 2015. SEBI's proposed changes align the UPSI definition with significant events and thresholds listed in Schedule 3 of the SEBI Listing Obligations and Disclosure Requirements Regulations 2015 of LODR, covering aspects like changes in ratings, fundraising, management control agreements, fraud or defaults by key personnel, forensic audits, and significant regulatory actions. This broader definition seeks to standardize compliance for listed companies, enhance transparency, and protect investor interest by ensuring timely disclosure of price-sensitive information. The microfinance sector in India is witnessing a surge in bad loans, reaching an 18-month high of 11.6% in September quarter. This raises concerns about over-leveraging and has prompted warnings from regulators. Small finance banks are among the worst hit, with a bad loan ratio exceeding 15%. Collateral-free credit given by banks or non-banks to low-income households, those with annual income of less than Rs 3 lakh, is treated as microfinance loans. Women are the primary beneficiaries of such loans. The Ministry of Finance through the Central Board of Direct Taxes or CBDT has issued a circular which essentially condones delay in filing Form number 9A, 10, 10B and 10BB for assessment year 2018-19 and subsequent assessment years. This means if you have missed the deadline to file these forms, then you may do so now without any repercussions provided you satisfy the conditions as laid down by the law. All of these forms relate to trusts and educational institutions, while Form 10B and 10BB relate to tax audits by Chartered Accountant report. Forms 9A and 10 are used to get relief from income tax. CBDT, through another circular issued on the same date, has decided to condone delay in filing Form 10IC or Form 10ID. These forms are used by domestic companies for applying for lower rate of income tax. India could face a massive shortage of air conditioners and refrigerators in the summer of 2025 as the national standards body has refused to recertify the factories of more than 50 component suppliers in China as well as Vietnam, fearing Chinese supplies might be rerouted through the Southeast Asian nation. The Bureau of Indian Standards or BIS certification of factories of manufacturers, including component makers, is compulsory under government rules. The appliance makers termed the decision as unexpected and said it needed calibration for such import substitution, even as a BIS official said the move was aimed at promoting local manufacturing. The Reserve Bank of India and banks are developing a standard procedure for vehicle seizures when borrowers default on loans. This initiative follows reports of forceful vehicle seizures, including cargo. Banks are internally advising recovery teams to adhere to RBI guidelines. The government emphasizes that borrowers should not face harassment during loan recovery. Under existing RBI guidelines, financial institutions and their recovery agents cannot call borrowers before 8 in the morning and after 7 in the evening. The guidelines further mandate that regulated entities and their recovery agents shall not resort to intimidation or harassment of any kind, either verbal or physical, against any person in their debt collection efforts, including acts intended to humiliate publicly or intrude upon the privacy of the debtors or their guarantors' family members. Equity investments in 2024 in the real estate sector are set to hit a new record surpassing $10 billion for the first time. equity capital inflows touched USD 8.9 billion between January and September, registering a 46% year-on-year growth. The strong momentum in deal volume also continued with about 200 deals reported during this period compared to 151 deals in the same period last year. Domestic investors, primarily developers, have dominated capital inflows, while foreign investment remains robust, particularly from North America and Singapore. SEBI has notified amendment in para 15 of the master circular from credit rating agencies, removing the term technical default from para 15.3 and providing clarity on treatment of specific non-payment scenarios caused by factors beyond the issuer's control, such as incorrect investor account details or government instructions. Credit rating agencies shall confirm and verify the availability of adequate funds with the issuer and must also verify issuer funds, reason for non-payment, and escrow account deposits. The GST Council is anticipated to meet in November following state elections to consider a group of ministers' recommendation to exempt health and term life insurance from GST. Currently taxed at 18%, this exemption, if approved, could provide significant relief to policyholders while reshaping the insurance landscape in India. Exempting GST on health and term life insurance could stimulate demand for these essential policies. With rising healthcare costs and increasing awareness of financial security, such a move could make insurance more accessible and appealing to a wider audience. SEBI has notified amendment in SEBI Alternative Investment Funds Regulations 2012 by introducing a new sub-regulation. As per the amended norms, the investors of a scheme of an AIF shall have rights, pro rata to their commitment to the scheme, in each investment of the scheme and in the distribution of proceeds of such investment. Further, the rights of investors of a scheme of an AIF shall be pari passu in all aspects. RBI cautions public on deepfake videos of top management circulated over social media, giving financial advice. It has come to the notice of Reserve Bank of India that fake videos of the governor are being circulated in social media that claim launch of or support to some investment schemes by the RBI. These videos attempt to advise people to invest their money in such schemes through use of technological tools. India's top telcos, Jio, Airtel and Vodafone, lost millions of wireless customers in September. This happened for the third consecutive month. BSNL, on the other hand, gained subscribers. BSNL added close to 1 million subscribers as it did not increase its tariffs. Jio remained the biggest mobile operator despite losing the largest number of subscribers. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, or IBBI, has released a discussion paper proposing various amendments to the liquidation process under the IBBI Liquidation Process Regulations 2016 and IBBI Voluntary Liquidation Process Regulations 2017. Part A proposes changes in liquidation regulations in relation to A review of the auction process, B, ensuring transparency in compromise or arrangement schemes by mandating liquidator for applying closure of the liquidation process to the adjudicating authority, and C, improving the management of unclaimed proceeds in the corporate liquidation account. Part B proposes changes in voluntary liquidation regulations with respect to uncalled capital or unpaid capital contributions and improving the management of unclaimed proceeds in the corporate voluntary liquidation account. SEBI has introduced its consultation paper on reviewing the SME framework under SEBI ICDR Regulations 2018 and corporate governance provisions under SEBI LODR Regulations 2015, aiming to enhance SME pre- and post-listing norms. Proposals include increasing the minimum application size from 1 lakh rupees per application to 2 or 4 lakh rupees per application, changing the allocation methodology in the non-institutional investor category of SME IPO and aligning it with the allocation methodology used for the main board IPO. Kenyan President William Ruto announced the cancellation of two major deals involving India's Adani Group. The first is the procurement process for expanding Kenya's main airport, and the second is a 700 million power transmission agreement with an Adani unit. The cancellations follow US prosecutors' indictment of Adani for allegedly conspiring to bribe Indian officials in a $265 million scheme. The Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade has approved the Hinduja Group's acquisition of the debt-laden Reliance Capital Limited. The approval paves the way for the Mauritius-based IIHL to proceed with its Rs 9,861 crore resolution plan, which was approved by the National Company Law Tribunal on February 27, 2024. SEBI has notified the SEBI Buyback of Securities Second Amendment Regulations 2024. A new provision has been inserted relating to the conditions and requirements for the buyback of shares and specified securities. It states that if any member of the promoter or promoter group has declared its intention not to participate in the buyback, the shares held by such member of the promoter or promoter group must not be considered for computing the entitlement ratio. The Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, through its Committee on Career Counselling, signed a MOU with the Department of Skill Education, Central Board of Secondary Education or CBSE, to promote commerce-based skill courses for students across the country. The partnership aims to foster cooperation between ICAI and CBSE to advance commerce-oriented skills, specifically in the BFSI sector. The prime focus will be on enhancing the skills and employability of students through specialized courses designed to align with industry requirements. ICAI will provide expert inputs on course content, syllabus development, study materials, training modules, and career guidance. SEBI has notified the SEBI Bankers to an Issue Amendment Regulations 2024. As per the amended norms, SEBI has expanded the scope of activities carried out by banker to an issue. These activities now include providing escrow services for the purpose of issue management, delisting, buyback or open offer and other activities specified by the board. Further, a person must not act as a banker to an issue unless a certificate of registration has been obtained from the board. Zepto announced that the consumer internet company has raised a funding of $350 million in its latest round, marking the largest 100% domestic fundraise in India's startup ecosystem. The round it added included investments from Indian HNIs, family offices, and financial institutions. The fundraise was led exclusively by Motilal Oswal's private wealth division. The funding comes just 3 months after Zepto had secured $340 million from investors led by General Catalyst at a valuation of $5 billion. The investment was an extension of the funding round, as part of which Zepto garnered $665 million from investors in June. The Employees Provident Fund Organization will soon relax rules to allow more private banks and agent banks to collect provident fund from establishments and deposit them with the retirement fund body, thus enhancing the ease of doing business for companies, ease of living for its subscribers, and enabling more direct collection for the retirement fund body, which will result in faster funds transfer. This podcast is sponsored by Sound of CA. We share because we care. Vande Mataram, Jai Hind.